Hello, everyone. I am William Jamar Wright,
I'm Hattie.
and this is our podcast. What are we doing? This episode, we decided to go on and talk a little bit about the truth, and do we want the truth to be told? Specifically by our star athletes and in the media, but also just with our friends and people that we know, and when we're having conversations with them. So, the truth, it shall set you free, apparently. But
yes, it shall.
So recently, I know from my perspective, I'm a huge NBA fan, and in the NBA, there has been a huge controversy about Kevin Durant, and has Kevin Durant become there is one sportscaster or media personality. He's like, Kevin Durant is the most sensitive person of all time.
It's okay to be sensitive, people. It's okay to be sensitive.
Well, it is. It's definitely okay to be sensitive.
Coming from a sensitive person. Of course I'm going to say it's okay to be sensitive.
But in terms of, first of all, everybody is taking shots at Kevin Durant for leaving OKC and going to Golden State. And of course, being in Golden State, he's won the last 2 championships. And he's, their team is just unreal. But ever since he's kind of gone to Golden State, and
so are people going to give LeBron the same amount of heat they gave Kevin Durant?
Well, first of all,
because players move to different places all the time. What's the big deal?
Well, it's definitely not getting. They're definitely not giving Kevin Durant as much flack. They're not giving LeBron as much flack as they gave Kevin Durant. First of all, the situation is completely different.
Okay.
So
I'm not going to trust you on this because...
Yeah, just the circumstances are completely different. Kevin Durant, he went to the team that was, the best regular season team, and he just kind of, put them over the edge. Where LeBron is going to, the Los Angeles Lakers. The Lakers haven't been relevant in the last couple of years. So it's just completely different scenario. But recently, Kevin Durant has been yo, y'all not about to come for my head without me coming back at you. And so he's been
speaking his truth.
He's been speaking his truth, which is something he didn't really do when he was in Oklahoma City. Mm-hmm. He was a much more reserved, and kind of gave you that not coach speak, but he said the generic answers,
right?
He wasn't
very PC.
Very politically correct answer. Yeah. So that has been my frame of reference to media and just athletes speaking their truth. There was recently an issue on the Gymternet.
So, yes, the Gymternet. So, before we move to that, did you want to talk about what you thought about any of Kevin Durant stuff, or are we going to introduce... Okay.
Oh, yeah, I think we should just,
okay,
just get on to the topic.
So what we have been doing, at least for me, is watching gymnastics! Specifically, sorry, it's thundering and Amelia's scared, so that's why she's up here. Specifically, the U.S. Classics were yesterday, and we got to see the reigning Olympic champion, the one and only, best ever, #GOAT, Simone Biles, return to competition. She posted the highest all-around score in the world since, drumroll, her all-around score that won the Olympic gold medal. And they even changed the code of points to result in much lower scores since the last Olympics. So every 4 years they have a different code of points, and scores from that prior quad are not necessarily comparable to scores from today's quad because they've changed the rules. However, she had to fall on bars and still beat everyone else in the competition by many, many points, 1.5 points, 2 points, something like that.
That's a lot. That's
a lot in gymnastics. Won 3 out of 4 events. Well, I guess 3 out of 5. Because she won floor, beam, all around. Yeah, 3 out of 5. But she didn't do 2 vaults, so that's why she would have won vault too if she did 2 vaults. Anyhow, just so dominant. This is the first time she's competed since the Olympics. So everyone and their mother was extremely excited to watch and just to see how she would do. And because I live in the 21st century with Twitter, I was excited to follow along on Twitter. And there is such a thing, little did you know, as the Gymternet, which is a collective bunch of people on Twitter that love gymnastics, follow gymnastics, just fans of the sport. Also includes a lot of current coaches, former, and current.
Anybody and everybody that's interested in
Yes,
gymnastics.
yes. And so, unfortunately, there was some uncharacteristic drama because of the event yesterday.
Drama in sports.
Who would have thought? Especially with girls, young children, like some of them.
Well, like, okay, so we're going to dispel this whole girl drama.
Yeah,
like,
boys
guys have drama too.
And
like,
that was
there is a whole lot of drama in like the NFL, like NBA, like across all of our sports teams. Guys have just as much drama as girls. So it is not something.
Thank you for checking me. I meant more of like, not that men don't have drama, but we, at least as a society, we recognize that girls have drama.
Yes.
And in the NFL, the NBA, all this stuff, they're adults, right? They are well into their 20s and 30s when they're playing these sports. Only a few competitors at the competition this weekend were of legal drinking age. Like, very few. Simone is one of them. She's 21. Several others are over 18, but many are 16. In the senior competition, the age limit, the lower age limit is 16. Yeah. So some of these competitors are still barely able to drive. Yeah. So I would also expect more, like, lack of awareness about how their tweets, like, lack of social etiquette in this younger age group as compared to an older age group.
Okay.
But anyway, I do want to make a comment. Someone did post on the Gymternet, like, can we step back and take a moment and discuss how if this were a group of guys doing this, no one would be saying anything and no one would be caring, and like, which I thought was interesting because I think people do care.
Yeah, I do think people care well.
I don't think it would be. Anyway, that's a subtopic.
Well, I definitely think that, like, because even in looking at the Kevin Durant, like, situation and him leaving Oklahoma City and going to Golden State, there was definitely some bad blood or perceived bad blood from the media and what was portrayed to us between Kevin Durant and Russell Westbrook, who were the two main stars in Oklahoma City. And it was like, hey, these two people, they hate each other. They don't ever want to talk to each other ever again. Like, they're going to go for each other's neck when they're out there on the court. And, like, there's been other situations where it has been portrayed and talked about in that, like, players don't like each other. Like, one player doesn't agree with management. And even recently, there was a star player that was playing for the Toronto Raptors. So Toronto is in Canada. Like, they are not a free agent destination in the NBA, but, like, when they have a free agent come up and they have a homegrown star, they make, like, a valiant effort to keep that player.
When you say that player, do you mean the
homegrown
star?
Yeah, the homegrown star. And I would say all NBA franchises, but franchises that aren't like the Lakers or the Celtics, like, they aren't free agent destinations. It's so much more important that, like, they keep their homegrown stars because they're not going to go out and sign the big name free agent. So in Toronto, they traded away their homegrown star. And so this was after he signed, like, a big contract, like, 2 years ago to stay with them for 5 years. And, like, everybody thought he was leaving. But, like, he got very upset and has went on, like, this media tour and interview. And he's literally talking about, like, his feelings and how he felt like he was betrayed by, like,
men have feelings.
Yes, men have feelings. And they do get expressed. It is just, especially in the professional ranks and stuff like that, it is not seen as like, oh, this is some emotional, like, it's not seen as like a negative. I don't feel like
yeah.
it's seen as like this is a good.
Let's consider his feelings as opposed. Oh, it's just girls' feelings. Whatever, they don't matter. She's overreacting. Calm down.
So what was the situation with Simone?
So I want to preface this by we don't know because
You're commenting on something you don't know.
All I know is that what I read on Twitter, which again was some tweets were from Simone's Twitter account. Everything else was, I would say conjecture because it was other people involved saying, well, I think this happened and then that happened.
Okay.
And I don't really know. But apparently, so there's a thing called a Finsta, which is, I thought it was fake Insta, but you say fenced in?
Yes, so it's a phenomenon on social media where you see it a lot with teenage girls, and they have basically two Instagrams. One is for like the public and everybody to see, and they only post like happy stuff on there. But then they have a fenced-in account where they are only posting stuff for their friends, and they're posting like their true stuff. It is like very selective who they allow to follow them, and it's really kind of, you have your fenced-in account is your true feelings, and it is something that you're only sharing with.
So I feel like it's more of a true communication tool by communicating your real feelings with your real friends, as opposed to, I have an online page.
Yeah, but in theory, like, you only have in theory, you should only have,
understand what it is.
Yeah, in theory, you should only have one, like, Instagram, like,
Why?
just one account to be able to.
Why should you?
Because, like, if you only have one you, like, you don't have an alternate, like, personality.
That's true. I guess, well, so a lot of the girls at my gymnastics gym, they have accounts with each other. So two of my gymnasts, they love animals, and they have a whole bunch of animals, and so they share an Instagram account that's for their, it's like, of their pets.
Yeah.
But they both run it, so they both have the password, and they
yeah, but that's a
in.
shared, like, Instagram account with somebody else.
Yes.
But if
so you don't count that as, like, that, because each child has their own personal Instagram account that I know of.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if they have more.
Yeah.
But then they also have this shared account. You would not count the shared account as an additional account for each child.
No, it's an additional account, but it's not like, they're not restricted to, like, who's following it. Like, when you have a fenced-in account, you have, one person has two accounts.
Mm-hmm. I'm understanding.
One account, it's open to the public for everybody to see, and the other account is private.
I'm understanding everything that you said.
Yeah, but, like, in theory, if, like, they're not comfortable being their private self in public, like, they're not comfortable sharing, like, all of their
right, or and maybe
who they
it's
are.
not
they're
not
not
an uncomfortable thing. Maybe it's just it's just they want to keep it private, or more
but like,
private.
why would But if you only, so the thought is, like, if you only want to have, like, a private Instagram account, like, do you really need Instagram? Like, why wouldn't you just share it?
So that's what I was saying. Maybe it's more of a true communication tool, because now they're taking a picture of something that upsets them and sending it to their three best friends via Instagram for their Finsta account. And they want, like, their friends to maybe say, like, oh, I'm so sorry, or like, oh, haha, or like whatever. They're using, just like you might put the picture message in a text to your three best friends, but not blast everybody in your phone that you've ever known.
Yeah.
So that's why I feel like maybe they're using it more as a true communication tool, where they're talking about their true feelings and thoughts and only sharing it with their good friends, as opposed to making it available for anyone to see. So I guess I'm not sure that the statement, you should only have one, like, I don't know how I feel about that statement.
But, like, when you have, like, it's the thought process that, like, if I need two Instagrams, like, I have to have one where I'm my real self and one where I'm my fake self, and I only post, like, the positive things. And like,
so I get that in terms of a regular kid, but I think there's an added level of complication when some of these kids, because they are children, are on the U.S. national team and they have 35,000 followers that are girls and boys, I'm sure, across America following them, and they're in the national spotlight, and they have TV cameras on them a lot at competitions, and, you know, so I do feel like...
What does that have to do with their, like...
Because you don't want to be put, like... In that regard, I feel like their main Instagram account becomes more like... Or they may feel like that is not a place where they can express who they need to be because they need to... They're agents of some other organization. And so they need a separate account that allows them to be themselves as opposed to being, like...
But this idea, that, like, I can't be my true self. Like, I have to have two accounts. That causes a lot of, like, anxiety and issues with, like,
and I can agree with that statement. I'm just saying I don't think that every single Finsta account is a bad idea. Or, like, that you shouldn't... Because I definitely understand how feeling like you can't be authentic, like being your true self, is a problem. I think that's a problem for people of all ages. But I would argue, in terms of the Finsta thing, that I feel like a lot of people feel that way with their one account. Like, I feel like a lot of people on Instagram and on many social media platforms feel like they can only post the good stuff and it needs to be a certain way, and they only have one account. And that's...
I would beg to differ. I bet there are a lot of young people that have two accounts and they share like the real stuff with their friends and stuff, and then they have like a perfect public persona that they want to portray.
And I would agree completely with that.
And I don't think that's a healthy way for like young people
I don't think that's healthy either.
Up.
I'm not disagreeing with anything you're saying. So I think you're absolutely 100% right. There's a population of Instagram users that have two accounts. In one of them, they feel like they can only portray a certain thing.
Yes.
And that's unhealthy.
Yes.
My argument is that, yes, all of that is true. I think there's also another group of Instagram users that only have one account, but still feel the same way of, I can only post a certain thing.
Yes.
And I think that's equally as unhealthy. It's the exact same thing, it's just they don't have a second account.
Agreed. Yes.
That's the only point I was trying to make. So yeah, Instagram, it's a struggle. Anyhow, so back to the podcast. What happened, allegedly, was one gymnast on her second Finsta, fenced in, or fake account. I don't know why they called it fake account, but anyhow, posted something that did not, to the best of Twitter's knowledge, did not use anyone's name specifically. And then another gymnast said, "Hey, Simone." And the only reason I can say Simone is because she has publicly tweeted in response to this whole thing. So we do know that she was involved. "Hey, Simone, I think this might be about you." And then Simone got upset, understandably, if there was something negative, or who knows what it was. But she got upset about it. And so then there was interactions that people have perceived at the competition to be related to this issue. Who knows if that's really true or not. And then subsequently, Simone made some tweets that were indicating they were related about this debacle, disagreement, struggle, whatever you want to call it. And some of those tweets, it was really interesting to read, because I think on Twitter, you know, especially if you follow anything political, like, a lot of nasty things are said. Even if it's not political, like, a lot of mean things are said. A lot of, like, quote unquote clapbacks are said. A lot of, I think, just like in everyday daily life, where you might have some people being mean to each other, getting under each other's skin, like, kind of poking the bear, and other people responding. Like, that's going to be on Twitter, too, because that's part of human nature.
I do think that on Twitter, though, like, people are they have a lot more courage.
I feel, they have less filter to like, rein themselves in. I agree.
Then, so when you have fake Twitter accounts and things like that, people are like, oh, like, I'm just going to say whatever I want. Hateful things. And then you're like, oh, you got like 2 followers, and you're out here like calling somebody a B, or like saying they're a whore, a bitch.
Oh, okay.
Or like, so
I got it.
So like they just feel like more courage to say mean and hateful and racist and things like that.
Yes, and I would agree with all that. So anyway, it was really interesting to read people's reactions to Simone saying some of these things, because half of it was like, oh, well, and she kind of, in one of her tweets, she said, like, y'all need to get at the reigning world champion, which is another gymnast. So that kind of clued everybody into who the 2 gymnasts are. Mm. And a lot of people were like, oh, well, I have so much more respect for that other gymnast now, because she's not posting anything on Twitter, like, how mature for a 17-year-old, like, yada yada. And then they're like, I can't believe, like, Simone, this isn't a good look, blah, 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 blah. But then the other half of the gym internet was like, throughout this whole, scandal with sex abuse, like, we're so glad. All we wanted was for people to be speaking up about things that they, were bad and that they didn't like. And now we have a gymnast speaking her mind about something that she clearly is upset about. Like, we can't have it both ways, We want athletes to feel empowered to talk about the things that are, like, problematic. We don't want people to only be posting rainbows and sunshine on social media. Like, this is a real thing, and she's expressing her authentic feelings. What's wrong with that? And, so it was just really interesting to read. And when I mentioned it to you, we thought we would do a podcast about it, because that begs the question, how authentic do you want people to be? And does that change on social media versus in real life? And what other ways might that answer change?
So, I want athletes to speak out on everything and how they feel. First of all, I think it's really entertaining to kind of get not like to get their perspective, because I think like the more like the saying goes, 2 minds are better than 1. So the more we can get people to like express their ideas, like how they feel about things, I think it will open us up as a society to like blind spots and things like that. Like over the last, I would say like 3 to 4 years, I've really become more in tune to like how women feel about like issues and like sexual harassment and things like that in our like society, because first of all, I hope women feel like women feel free to like speak, but also like I have made it in like I made a point of emphasis to listen, and I think when we have like a society where like people feel free to like communicate, whether it be through like Twitter, and I think Twitter is a great tool, because even our president, whether we agree with him or not, like he is able, like there is no middleman. He is able to say exactly how he feels and what he feels, and whether we agree with it or not, like it's powerful. And I want our athletes and I want everybody to feel and have the courage, not only have the courage, but feel empowered to speak their truth, but also to like inform us of their perspective. And I think we all grow when that happens. What about you?
Well, I kind of feel like I'm a little torn on the issue. I definitely agree with everything you said, and I think that I don't have a problem. Like, it's interesting because if I imagine like, oh, well, would you say this in real life to that individual's face? And the person's like, yes. Then I'm like, say it on Twitter. And so that doesn't preclude mean things being said, like that. That still allows you to speak your truth and be authentic. But kind of going back to the point you said, people have more courage to be mean or to say nastier things. I think that's true, and I think also people have less filter to think about how it might come off or affect other people, because there's like a screen distancing you from the human with tears in their eyes on the other end. You know what I mean? And so I feel that sometimes people maybe say or do things without really thinking about it on Twitter. I guess they do that in real life too. But
it is definitely less likely to happen, at least from my perspective. Not that I'm like out here tweeting a whole bunch of stuff, but it's a lot less, like, in person, I am definitely cognizant of, like, how is a person going to take this? And, like, that, you're right, there is a human aspect of, like, communication with somebody face-to-face that is different, whether it be over text or, like, in, like, person, over the phone. Like, having that face-to-face interaction and talking to somebody and having the courage to do that is completely different than doing that over, like, social media.
Right. So I definitely want to make sure that people feel empowered to talk about their feelings and feel comfortable that they are allowed to do that, right? Like, I don't think anyone should be shamed for putting their feelings out there on Twitter, because that's going to make them even less likely to ever tweet their feelings again, and much less likely to even talk about their feelings, right? So I like that, and I want to encourage that, but there is like another step where I feel like, you know, maybe this particular spat between these two individuals would have been resolved better if they had just talked to each other in person. But, like, then the Gym Chat wouldn't have gotten, like, they wouldn't have been a buzz this afternoon. Like, we would have been a buzz, just not about that. There were so many things that we would have been buzzed about. So many things happened at this competition that we could talk for days and days, and we will be talking for days and days about. How did this rise up to the top? Because humans like drama. Just like you would read the tabloids, I feel like that's how this rose to the top. And I was kind of disappointed because I was really looking forward to hearing commentary about all these gymnasts, the juniors also had a competition, and the age group below that, the Hopes competition, also took place earlier that day. Like, there was so much fantastic gymnastics to be talked, and not so fantastic gymnastics, to be talked about, and to be dissected, and to be analyzed, and I was really looking forward to that. But through athletes, just kind of... Go ahead. I have something else to say, but I'll say it. I was just going to say, through athletes speaking their truth, all of your gymnastics analysis got postponed for another day. At least now, like, in theory, you get to talk about gymnastics a day longer. It's true. I mean, I wouldn't say that we really talked about this, or that this was talking about gymnastics. Yes, it made it extend a day longer, but then I lost a day at the beginning. So the thing that I was going to say is, I think it's also different when a person on Twitter has professional affiliations. So I think, like, remember when you were a student athlete, they would say, like, you're an agent of the university, like, you need to make sure your conduct is in... like for me, like, when I was a student athlete, like, Twitter was not... Well, I know Twitter wasn't a thing, but Facebook, like... and things like that. But outside of... I'm not talking with specific respect to social media, but, like, when you go traveling, they're like, you're representing Duke University, you need to act accordingly. You know what I mean? I think that Twitter, or all of social media... some people perceive it to be an extension of that. And so I think that it could get tricky if some organizations feel like, well, this behavior is not something we accept because you're an agent of our organization, and therefore you're going to have negative consequences for doing and saying some of these things. I think that that is an area, as a society, we need to consider a little more and hash out, because I can see it being... like a problem. And for instance, a lot of the tweets this afternoon were talking about, like, oh, well, you know, the new national team coordinator needs to step in and, like, have a mediation, or, like, is there no, like, PR management person, like, in USAG? This is a, you know, firestorm, you know, all this stuff. But I personally do not think, like, USAG should have anything to do with this situation. I don't think so either, because it's not a USA... like, I think it's different if someone was complaining about, the lights being bad in the auditorium, and that's why they couldn't focus on beam, or, they didn't regulate rules well enough, and therefore there was an injury. Like, I think there's lots of things that USAG should have a say about when it directly concerns USAG. But right now, these are just two individuals talking about their feelings, and it's independent. Like, the only thing in common is that they happen to be gymnasts, and this whole thing occurred because they were at a competition together.
But it sounds like people on, like, the Gymternet were like, oh, like, USAG should definitely step in.
Right, and that's where I think it gets tricky, because in this particular issue, I don't think USAG should step in. However, there have been, in the past, people saying, like, racist things, like college gymnasts, and then everyone's calling for, well, you're an agent of the university needs to step in and give you some, like, sensitivity training, and, it's not a good look on the university for one of their student athletes to be spouting off all this horrible stuff. So and in that case, I do feel like the university should step in. Mm. So I kind of feel like right now I can say, like, oh, that situation falls into this bin, that situation falls into that bin, but I don't think that's a fair... Like, I think there needs to be a
hard line that, like, says, this is when we should step in, this is when we shouldn't?
No, a hard line that is, like, maybe not a hard line, but there needs to be some type of proactive, here's how we deal with these things, and not a reactive, well, let's see what the situation is before deciding our course of action. Because on one hand, like, I could understand if some people... Well, no. USAG already has a terrible reputation. It can't get any worse. It can't get any worse.
So it kind of ties in a little bit with, like, the national anthem protest in the NFL, where, like, these American citizens, they play professional football, but they have kind of taken the right of protesting while on the job.
Which is their constitutional right.
Yes.
To protest. Yes. And they're doing it peacefully.
And so, like...
Just want to put that out there.
As a representative, like, are they, like, when they have their football, like, uniform on and, like, they're at a game, they, in theory, are representative of each individual, like, franchise.
Right.
And so, when they are, as a representative of that franchise, does the franchise have the right to control, like, their actions? Which I personally have an opinion on it, and I think it extends, like, this situation with USAG kind of it's a little bit different from what...
Yeah, it's not nearly as sensationalized, or I think as, I would say, important.
Yes.
But it's the same, like, if you want to make... It's the same concept. Yeah. And so I think that... my personal opinion on the football case is I think they should be allowed to protest. This is something that directly involves them. They're trying to raise awareness for a variety of issues, and I think that they they're not breaking any laws, right? Mm-hmm. I think it's different if they're engaging in behavior that's law-breaking.
Yes.
But I will also say a lot of organizations have a code of conduct that obviously precludes any law-breaking, but of all the behaviors that are not law-breaking, there's still a smaller set in their code of conduct.
Yes.
And so they would say that behavior, while not law-breaking, is against our code of conduct. And I think in many ways that's a good thing and should be encouraged. But I think the football situation is a perfect illustration of sometimes it's not a good thing. And I think, I disagree with that kind of restrictive, like, limits on behavior and limits on expressing one's opinion. So, it's really interesting.
I would say with the NFL protests, like, I don't even care what you think about, like, the protests. What do you think about, like, police brutality and, like, disenfranchised...
The issues that they're actually protesting.
Like, disenfranchised communities. Like, what is your actual stance on that? Like, do you think it's a problem? Do you not think it's a problem? So that would be what I would say on that. But I think...
So what about this Kevin Durant stuff? Was there any more you wanted to say, or you're good?
Yeah, I'm good. Like, okay. I think, basically, I was just bringing it up as an example of an athlete, like, speaking their truth and being like, hey, like, I have heard it from all of you guys, and I'm not going to take it anymore. Like, he in a lot of ways feels like he was personally being attacked. And it's not like, they're not like critiquing his game. They're attacking his personality and his character. And I could understand like somebody feeling like, I'm not gonna take this anymore. And a lot of times that's when you see when people start to like speak like their feelings and come back, and they're just like, they get fed up. Like, as humans, we can only take so much. And when somebody's just continuously coming at you, and you feel like, I've done nothing wrong, I've done everything within my rights. I was a free agent. Right. I had an opportunity to go and play for the best.
Right. If I wasn't
that's
me,
what I did.
I was somebody else, no one would be talking about this. Like, yeah.
So, like, in all of, like, at times I talk about this for, like, our student athletes, and that, like, we live in, like, an American culture where, like, a lot of it is, like, the next thing I have to do has to be bigger, it has to be better. And the next thing that Kevin Durant did, it was bigger, it was better. Like, nobody can say that, like, leaving Oklahoma City and going to Golden State was not, like, a better move. And in society, when we say, like, you need to, like, do as best you can, like, always strive to continue to work better and get better, he did exactly that.
And I feel like it's also comes down to business, right? Like,
yeah.
I can get a higher buyer over here. Why would I not sell
well,
them?
the money, like, there's a little bit of difference. Yeah, like,
but
the contracts are pretty standard.
Okay.
There's a little bit of nuance with, like, being able to sign, like, for a 5th year, but ultimately, like, he was gonna be making a lot of money. Like,
either way.
No matter where he went to. And it's not about the money. In my opinion, it's not about the money. It's about, like, he went to the best situation
right.
that he could find.
Yeah.
In all of our daily lives, like, we try and go to the best situation.
Yeah.
And when you have, like, people, like, co-workers, other people around the NBA that are just taking shots at your character, like, oh, you are soft, like, you ain't got no heart, like, we still recognize you got talent, but you're just not, like, you're not real. You didn't want to tough it out through tough situations, which I think is.
I feel like you had plenty of tough situations if you're
yeah.
athletes, like.
And, like, you can make the argument that, like, yes, he, like, as one of the best players in the world, probably the second best basketball player in the world, he didn't have to leave in order to win a championship, but he did leave, and it was his right to. So,
well, there's a whole lot we don't know about the situation, right? Like, maybe the culture there in the organization, or what he perceived with that set of teammates, was something he did not enjoy, or was toxic to him, or whatever. Like, there's a lot more than just, like, oh, I'm here to win a championship, right? If you go into work every day and you hate every second of it because of the people you're around, like, go somewhere else.
Yeah, well, like, we are like, under the assumption. Yeah, I'm operating under the assumption that, like, everything else was similar. Everything else was equal, and the only difference was that, like, one team had better players and had a number of better players than the other team. But, like, I'm sure culture and, like, things like that played a part.
Play a role, yeah.
But we do want athletes speaking their truth.
We want everybody speaking their truth.
If you feel something, say it. Unless it's, like, hateful, find a better way to say it. And I guess that's kind of a little problematic. Like, if it is hateful, do we want to say it?
Well, so that's the thing. As soon as you're about to say, like, if you have something to say, say it. And I was about to be like, but be respectful. Like,
yeah, because you can say mean things that are respectful.
Well, and I think there's a difference between just saying something mean versus expressing a criticism or an unpopular opinion or a negative belief in a way that's, like, not, or it's as minimally hurtful to the other part. Like,
yes,
you can say the same sentiment in a variety of ways. Some are more inflammatory and hurtful than others.
Yes.
And just, I would encourage people to try to think about what's the least inflammatory or least hurtful.
But still get the truth across.
The truth across, right?
Yes.
Like, sometimes people are going to be hurt by what your truth is, and
that's a part of life. So, I think we are going to get out of here, guys. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Tell the truth. It will set you free. And
that's what we've been doing. Thanks, guys.
Deuces.